I'd like to open a special meeting, and I ask our town clerk, Mr. Lewis, to read the notice of the special meeting.
Good evening. Notice of special meeting. Notice hereby given that the special meeting will be held by the Town of Brunswick Town Board on Monday, July 11th, 2022, commencing at 6 p.m. at Brunswick Town Hall, 336 Town Office Road, Brunswick, New York, 12180, for the purpose of conducting a public hearing with respect to the introductory local law number 4 of 2022, a local law which proposes to enact certain amendments to the Brunswick zoning law, together with any other business that may come before the board. This is dated June 27th by order of the town board, Philip Harrington, supervisor. It's published in the Eastwick Press and posted on our board and on our website.
All right, thank you, sir. Now, as many of you know, town board is proposing to make certain changes to the zoning law that was adopted in 2017. The town board held a special meeting on April 26th to present the proposed zoning amendments to the public. The town has retained LaBerge Group to assist in the preparation of the zoning law amendment, and a representative of LaBerge Group reviewed the proposed zoning law amendment during the April 26th meeting. To implement the proposed zoning amendment, the town board has introduced local law number 4 of 2022. That local law was introduced on May 26th. The town board has referred the proposed zoning law amendments to the Rensselaer County Planning Department and the Town of Brunswick Planning Board for review and recommendations. The town board also set a public hearing to hear public comments on the proposed zoning law amendments, and that public hearing will be open this evening. Brunswick zoning law amendment process started with the consideration of multifamily and two-family units in the town, where they should be located and how they should be regulated. The zoning amendments being proposed identify the zoning districts where multifamily and two-family units will be allowed, and it also add a density calculation that would determine a number of units that would be allowed based on specific features of the proposed site. The town building department also identified difficulties in applying the overlay zones that were included in the 2017 zoning law. The proposed amendments eliminates these overlay zones and set specific zoning districts for all areas of the town. As agriculture is an important part of our town, we also spend a lot of time looking at agricultural uses and how they are defined and treated under the zoning law. And amendments are proposed for agricultural uses. Also included are amendments regarding commercial vehicles and recreation vehicle parking, commercial solar facilities, planned development districts, and non-conforming uses. Now, as I said, before we open our public hearing, we have a representative of the LaBerge Group. And Kevin, you're with us tonight. Would you give us a presentation of your proposed amendments, please?
Sure. You did a nice summary of the primary components that are changing. Oh, wait,
Yeah.
okay.
You can grab that mic and just take it with you. Thanks.
So I'm Kevin Schwarzberger from the LaBerge Group. I took over this project at the end after the person who was working with the town moved on to a different firm. So as I was saying, the town supervisor did a nice job of summarizing the key points that are changing within the town zoning. If we look at the zoning map itself, the primary changes are, as you said, the overlay zones have gone away. That was the agricultural overlay, and there was the light commercial overlay. Light commercial has been replaced with highway commercial in the purple here. The only other major changes are these small areas that are labeled as amendments 1 through 5. Those are, so amendment 1 is changing from agricultural to local business. That's right along Route 2, just south of the rest of the local business area. Then there's one parcel that's changing from hamlet to residential, 15. That's the other thing, Hamlet overlay, or Hamlet district has changed to light business district. Or local business district, sorry. There's also other areas, that area, Hamlet area was also in the Eagle Mill area. So there's Amendment 3 is Hamlet to agriculture, Hamlet to agriculture, and Hamlet to residential 15. Now, these areas are all pretty small, as I said. Amendment 1 is a change of 24 acres. Amendment 2 is a change of 0.76 acres. Amendment 3 is a change of 51 acres. Amendment 4 is a change of 16 acres, and Amendment 5 is a change of 26 acres. Beyond the map itself, the other major changes have to do with multifamily housing. The multifamily housing was allowed in the R25H, higher commercial and local business. And now the agricultural, now it's only permitted in the R40 district. Sorry, the R40, the residential 40, that's the agriculture, that's this area here. The light yellow. This was done because the town was looking to reduce impacts on traffic on Route 7 and the impact to municipal services that has been concentrating. The other large change is that you now have a density cap, or you're proposing to have a density cap on development. That is a density cap based on amount of acreage per dwelling unit. So it changes by district, and it also changes by if you have public water and sewer. Actually, it's if you have public water or sewer, or public water and sewer.
Plus that, Kevin, the density considers whether all that land can be used or if it's
That's
too
right.
hilly
That was my
or
next-
sloped.
Yeah, so if you're not within the
I mean,
water
it's not
sewer
just
district.
30-acre site.
No. So the constraints of steep slopes, wetlands, any water courses, lakes, like all that has to be taken out when you're doing the density calculations now. So it's a calculation of buildable land, and even existing structures are also considered, or can't be considered as buildable land if they're going to remain. And the floodplains also included that. Agriculturally, as I said, they removed the agricultural overlays district. That was because it was originally intended to work with the New York State Certified Agricultural District. So with agricultural now, you have a split. If you are within the New York State Ag District, you are considered a farm, you can be considered a farm operation, and all of those existing uses that used to be standalone are now accessory to that farm operation. If you're outside that district, you would be considered a farm use, I believe, and every item that would be accessory in the New York State Ag District would have to be a standalone use outside the Ag District.
Evan, was that are considered or can be considered a farm operation?
So the farm operation is only within an agricultural, a New York State Ag District, as I read it. And if you're
You're not
outside.
saying that any parcel in
No,
that
no, no,
district
no,
is
no,
considered a
no.
farm
If
operation?
that's the only place where farm operation can exist, is within the agricultural district. If you're, but it seemed like before it wasn't split. It seemed that you could be a farm operation outside of the district. So now it's limited to only within that district. That was my understanding of the reading of the proposed law. Is that not accurate to what you guys discussed?
I don't have what the definition was. Can I
Yeah,
add
yeah,
something
yeah.
for the record, please?
Yeah.
So just to add
For the purposes of the record on the discussion mark on the agricultural district, this proposed amendment is to identify those lands that are included in a state certified agricultural district as shown on the county maps. And under state law, there is a specific definition for farm operation within a state certified agricultural district. It's under the ag markets law. And certainly the general rule at the state level is a municipality cannot unreasonably restrict agricultural practices that are constituting a farm operation within a state certified agricultural district. But there are a number of agricultural uses in town that are outside state certified agricultural districts. The proposed zoning amendment would identify those areas that are agricultural operations, but they're outside the state certified agricultural district. And these are termed agricultural uses, not a state certified farm operations. So that's the distinction, and that's what's proposed in the zoning amendments.
Yes, one more.
And also, if I can include for the record regarding multifamily and the density, again, for purposes of the record, prior to the 2017 zoning law amendments, multifamily and two-family under the Brunswick zoning ordinance were allowed in all zoning districts, but subject to special use permit review by the zoning board of appeals. But included within the Brunswick zoning ordinance was a density cap. And what was set was an arbitrary 9,000 square foot per unit. I don't know this, but presumably that was based on the smallest residential zoning district at the time, R9. So one further thing for the record, when the 2017 zoning law was adopted, it carried over multifamily use in a number of zoning districts as permissible. It did not carry over any density cap. And that was identified as an important issue for the town in reviewing the zoning law. So what's been proposed is not reinstituting the arbitrary 9,000 square foot limit, but to include the density calculation in order to arrive at what the allowable number of units on a particular project site would be. Again, I'll note for the record that this is not an unusual approach on calculating density for a proposed project. It is used in a number of municipalities across the state. And what it does is take into regard the particular project site. And if there are areas on a project site that would otherwise be unbuildable due to certain constraints, those can include steep slopes, state or federal wetlands, floodways, floodplains, those are removed. Those need to be calculated in terms of acreage, but removed from the buildable area. Once those constrained lands are then removed, the proposed zoning law applies the otherwise allowable density for the zoning district, and you perform that calculation to determine the number of units that a project site or the particular acreage would be allowed. This would include both multifamily units, but it's also proposed to be applicable to subdivisions of land or single-family subdivided lots. And that would be incumbent upon an applicant to perform that density calculation and present that as part of any land use application.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Yeah, so it seems that you are proposing currently that would be anywhere between 9,000 and 80,000 square feet per unit based on the type of land, type of district you're in, and if you have water, sewer access, and what kind of constraints are on them. Moving on to planned development districts. Utility, commercial solar and wind are proposed to not be permitted through the PDD process. Residential PDD will require 15 acres. It was formerly 10 acres. And constrained land removal will be implemented, and the 25% density bonus will be capped. Manufactured homes have been, that's the language now replacing mobile homes. Limits, this has been around for a while, but Manufactured homes are allowed to exist in any single or any residential district as long as they meet the requirements of that district. As long as they are on a foundation, as long as they meet the width requirements and the minimum lot size. So all language that was pertaining to mobile homes is now manufactured homes. They're now manufactured home parks instead of mobile home parks. And manufactured homes doesn't just mean a traditional trailer. It could be anything that's been manufactured and brought to site, connected together. Minimum width is 18 feet. Recreational vehicles shall not be occupied on any lot for more than 72 consecutive hours in a 30-day period. Recreational vehicles are Winnebagoes. Allows for one additional RV for 72 hours in a 30-day period as well. They will be subject to setback requirements. Commercial vehicle parking is also within this. So commercial vehicle parking requirements are put in place to address instances of incompatible vehicles, large trucks on residential lots. Allows for the parking of not more than one commercial vehicle of 14,000 pounds. And it's supplement to the location where it will be located on the site and the setbacks as well. Solar collection systems, small scale solar is now allowed in the R25 zone with a minimum lot size of 1 acre. And is only allowed in the rear yard with a 40-foot minimum setback in all districts. That's all other districts. Utility scale solar has been clarified on all on-site utility lines shall be placed underground except interconnection equipment. This was always something that had to be added in to pretty much every solar proposal. Screening will be required for any utilities that cannot be placed underground, and there will be a limit of no more than 3 utility poles. Non-conforming structures, lots, and uses has been completely reorganized in the code for clarity. This clarity is for residential exemptions for lawfully existing single family and 2-family dwellings and their associated structures. It allows for the expansion of up to 50% of the primary structure, as well as construction and expansion of porches, decks, pools, sheds, and other accessory structures. And no additional residential units are allowed in non-conforming use. Unless one or more bulk and or setback standards are proposed to be exceeded, any improvements will not require an area variance. Some additional revisions are new and revised definitions for clarity and for modernization, as times change relatively quickly. There's a new use table, and which has taken out the zones that are no longer used and kind of reshuffles a few of the agricultural uses around. There's also a new bulk schedule with revisions for the accessory structures that are now part of the ag zone. So I don't know if you want me to run through everything that's changed in all of these, but I do have lists of all the definitions that have changed. I have new definitions and revised definitions. So I'll go through the new definitions. There's new definitions for the agricultural district, which is the New York State Certified Ag District, and agricultural use. an active agricultural use, a bakery, wholesale bakery, base density carport, constrained land, density factor, landscape company, lawn service company, light duty equipment, light duty vehicle, lot of record for a existing non-conforming use, manufacturing home park, individual manufactured home, public water system, public sewer system, recreational vehicle, motorized recreational vehicle, non-motorized recreational vehicle, right-of-way, public right-of-way, and an area served by public water and or sewer, and required setback area for a yard. Those are all definitions that were not in your previous zoning, so that should make things a lot clearer. So because there's been so many revisions, that's why this is going on. You're basically repealing and replacing because the extent of revisions is actually quite large. The major amendments to the bulk area requirement schedule, that would be density was added to the schedule in terms of condition and density factor. The minimum yard areas section was changed to principal building, minimum required yard dimensions, minimum floor area for buildings changed to minimum floor area for principal buildings. Residential 40,000 district was broken out in density requirements. The business overlay district changed to the highway commercial district. The Hamlet district changed to the local business district. The permitted accessory yard dimensions changed to accessory structure required yard and bulk dimension schedule. Front lot line setbacks were adjusted in all districts except light industrial and heavy industrial. Rear lot line setbacks were adjusted in the commercial, business light, and local business districts. Height was included as a new section within the accessory structures. And additional footnotes are added in all tables. That basically ends my mathematical summary. Yes, absolutely.
And again, just for purposes of the record, Kevin did go over the elimination of overlay districts. As a zoning concept, an overlay district is generally accepted, but it can be a little difficult and sometimes confusing in application. So an overlay concept is the underlying zoning district still stays in place, but an overlay, an additional district is overlaid on top and allows additional uses. And that can be sometimes difficult in application. So there were two basic overlays here in town. One was the business light overlay, which basically was on Hoosick, east of, we'll call it the Duck Pond, and heading out past 278, heading to Pittstown. And a lot of that area, certainly east of 278, was A40, but also allowed certain business uses as a business light overlay. That was eliminated to create a fixed district called highway commercial, so that it's very clear what uses were allowed where along that corridor. It's designed to address highway type commercial uses, and appropriate setbacks were considered as well. The other overlay district in town, which the building department did have some problems in application, was the agricultural overlay. So in concept, in 2017, the zoning agricultural overlay district was designed to mirror the state certified agricultural districts and created that overlay. The issue here in the town of Brunswick is that there is still a lot of land included in state certified agricultural maps that are located in residential areas. And so what the building department was faced with on occasion was a property owner seeking to undertake certain agricultural uses allowed in the overlay district in the middle of a residential neighborhood. So to address that issue, there was this revision proposed to eliminate the overlay district, rely on the state certified, county issued agricultural, again, residential, small commercial, walkable, and out Plum's Corners. Route 2. The issue, though, in practicality is Route 2 is a state highway, and there were very limited sidewalks for a truck going right through. Identified for those zones.
A lot of tells them exactly what they can do on that site when the overlay is far more subjective to the whims of the community for what's going to be allowed where. So I just wanted to add that. And it keeps it in the corridors that kind of development should be. Both the agriculture.
As you know, a little bit over a year. Another firm, so they hired Kevin up to speed on this also, but Matt's trying to find a way a little bit here. Kevin,
Thank you.
well, we can blame Matt, that's what I do.
22. Notices proposed zoning law. Due to to provide clarity with respect to the effective provisions of are recommended through the repeal and supersession of the entirety of local law number 1 of 2017 and replacement thereof through this proposed local law. A complete copy of the introductory local law and the amendments proposed to specific sections of the Brunswick zoning law are available for inspection at the Town of Brunswick Clerk's office. Now therefore, pursuant to Section 20 of the Municipal Home Rule Law, the Town Board of the Town of Brunswick, New York will hold a public hearing on the aforesaid introductory local law at the Brunswick Town Hall, 336 Town Office Road, Troy, New York, on Monday, July 11th, 2022 at 6 p.m., at which time all persons interested therein shall be heard. So this is dated June 27th. It was posted on the board, on our website, and published in the Eastwick Press.
Okay, at this point, I'll open it to the public. Do the public hearing. If anybody out there wants to come up and make a comment, concern, question, that's what it's all about. Could I have your name and address, please?
Good evening, Bill Bradley, 398 Ball Mountain Road. I'm also a property owner of 74 Farrell Road, which is within the light industrial zone in the town. Last time the zoning was changed in 2017, I raised an objection to the extensive buffer that's been included in the zoning. There's a 200-foot buffer between industrial uses and residential uses. Previous zoning, there was a 50-foot setback. There is no logical reason within the decision to establish a 200-foot buffer. Other municipalities do not have a 200-foot buffer. They use a more scientific approach based upon what is the business, what are they doing, sound levels, things of that sort, in order to establish the use of residential so that you don't have any interference. It takes approximately nice green space. I don't think that you would take that very well. Overreach of government. So if you go back to the comprehensive plan, specifically in the comprehensive plan, it says new construction, renovations, and expansion in and around these areas should be subject to a design review to ensure industrial uses are adequately buffered and screened from neighborhood residential uses to avoid land use conflicts. It says nothing about taking 200 feet of my land. It says that, there'll be a design review, which I would say, that's more of a logical approach, maybe a scientific approach, noise level approach, or something of that type. So, I wanted to, I raised the objection to this paragraph. I raised the objection is instituting. There is within your zoning currently economic corridor that you established for businesses here and to try to foster some economic development. If you were to overlay 100 to 300 foot buffer at the back edges, because most of those properties abut an agricultural use, you would negate, I think, most of the business that you're trying to foster. And as good Republicans, isn't that what we're here for? We want to make sure that the man has a chance, the woman has a chance in order to build their business, maybe grow, maybe move on, but you can't do it by negating half the property by a buffer because, there's an agricultural use. I think the agricultural use is protected under the right to farm law, and I fully support that. I don't support the taking of property without due process, even though the argument is, this is due process what we're doing here, but not very palatable to me. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Anybody else at this point? Mr. Casey?
Good evening. Tim Casey, 172 Smithville Road, Troy, New York, representing Reifenberg Construction, 159 Brick Church Road. We own a parcel of property, 67 acres on the corner of Oakwood Avenue and Farrell Road, which is in the southeast corner of that light industrial component that is part of the zoning change. And ditto Mr. Bradley, the 200-foot setback requirement switch from the 50 feet previous will actually impact that property there by increasing from 3 acres of the 50-foot setback today to 12 acres of that land being non-usable. So it's a pretty substantial impact. It's a 2,600-foot line along the residential zoning behind it, and ultimately 9 acres of it will be increased to the total of 12, which is non-usable. So definitely would like a review / look at the change, and I object to the increase to the 200 foot. That's it.
Thank you. Anybody else at this point?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Mark Miranda. I'm an attorney at law firm of Tudor. I represent Mr. Charles Wilson, who resides at 63 in Creek Lane. Just prior to the beginning of this meeting, I provided the town supervisor and councilman and attorneys a letter on behalf of our law firm and on behalf of my client, Mr. Charles Wilson. There are additional copies as well available for the rest of the public. I'm not going to go into detail regarding the letter, and I'll just mention a couple of highlights. In particular, the large group today was asked to discuss what is characterized as a split between agricultural uses and farm operations. And while I can appreciate how the zoning may be trying to create some uniformity in the zoning law, if you look at the overall effect in conjunction with some additional revisions to the zoning law, it's going to actually hurt folks who are not state certified, but are nevertheless in an agricultural agricultural district. In particular, that with Mr. Charles Wilson. Nothing wrong necessarily with creating that distinction to create some clarity for the zoning law. However, there are a couple of exemptions that are no longer going to be afforded to those folks who are considered agricultural uses. Those exemptions will remain for owners who reside and operate within land that is district as a farming operation based on state certified, New York State certified agricultural laws. That is our primary concern today with respect to the zoning laws, is we don't want to hurt those folks who are in those agricultural use districts, and they're primarily small farmers. So we're really concerned. Mr. Golson is a fairly small operation he's trying to get off the ground here, and this zoning law may actually stop that before it even gets started. If the town does decide to move forward with the zoning law, we would like a little more clarity as to why that distinction was made and how that's going to be a benefit to the entire community. Because based upon our reading of the comprehensive plan, the town is deeply invested in promoting agricultural and farming uses for all citizens of the town. That more or less summarizes what's contained in the letter, and we really appreciate your time and consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else at this point? Public hearing, any concerns, any questions? Got some good concerns tonight here. Anybody else at this point? Down the board, any questions?
Bill Bradley, 398 Ballin Road. I would just request that the board hold open the public hearing to written comments for a period of time which would be appropriate.
Board, what do you think about that?
I'm good with it. I think they make some good points I'd like to think about.
Andy, how do we handle the so many day written comment period? We've done it before, of course.
You have done that in
I think you're on.
So that, yeah, so you have done that in the past where the formal public hearing has been closed, but you establish a written comment period for a certain number of days. And if you're inclined to do that, just make it clear on the record between calendar days and business days. We did that at the planning board on a matter just the other evening, and it came up calendar versus business, which is a good point. So if you're gonna incline to do that, to set the date for either calendar days or business days. In the past, you've done it for either 10 or 20 days.
10 to 20 calendar days.
Correct. That's been your practice in the past.
Board pleasure,
20 days.
20 days is fine.
That's 20 calendar days.
Tom, you okay with that? Yes. Anybody else at this point before I close the public hearing? I don't need to say anything else, we got it. No. Okay, one more chance. All right, if not,
I'll make a motion to close public hearing.
can I have a second?
A second.
With
Subject
that motion,
Subject to the 20-day
Yeah.
calendar day extension.
For written comment. There's a second, all in favor?
All right.
Thank you. Now, the map is up there, if you want to take a look at it, Kevin's here. Anybody, feel free to take a look there, any questions on that?
thank you.
Okay, Andy Gelker.